This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, school violence. Nova Scotia's Auditor General says staff is not equipped to deal with the rising numbers of incidents.
Greener fishery. A new provincial project offers up millions to make the seafood sector more environmentally friendly.
And Davis Day, recognizing the many lives lost in our province's coal mines.
Another nice one shaping up for Wednesday. Sun and clouds, some pop-up showers, risk of a rumble of thunder. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. Nova Scotia's Auditor General is accusing the provincial government of doing too little to address the growing rates of violence in schools.
In her report released today, Kim Adair says teachers don't get enough support, and she says the amount of violence she's uncovered is probably underestimated, given the province's failure to collect the actual data. Preston Mulligan explains.
The AG says rates of school violence in Nova Scotia jumped 60% over the past 7 years, with half of those violent incidents happening in the Halifax region. The Department of Education, she says, is paying too little attention.
Didn't seem to be focusing on it as an important issue that needed to be addressed.
The AG cites several reasons why more students are acting out. Among them, no consequences for bad behavior, too little support for students with special needs, a growing student population, and too little supervision in the hallways.
One of the things that we heard was the lack of support for the students who are just learning English. And there's a tendency of frustration when they don't understand classroom instruction to react in such a way that is categorized as an unacceptable behavior.
That 60% spike in violence, the AG says it's hard to really know how accurate that is because often nothing's ever recorded. The AG found that teachers don't bother because they don't expect anything to be done about it.
It's really quite a scathing report that the department doesn't even know, the number of incidents or have an overarching strategy to keep our schools as safe as possible. And at a baseline, I think that's what parents deserve.
The AG is asking the province to follow its own legislation and regularly update a provincial code of conduct that guides student behavior, something that hasn't been done in 9 years. She also recommends each school district track every lockdown and record details of what happened. The opposition says more schools would help too.
Many of our schools are significantly overcrowded, and the job of managing student behavior becomes much more difficult when you have schools at 120, 130, 150% capacity.
The Minister of Education thanked the AG for her report today and said action will be taken in time for the 2025 school year. Preston Mulligan, CBC News, Halifax.
I'll talk to a leading researcher in school violence prevention about today's report and about what Nova Scotia schools should do about the issue. That's our Newsmaker interview just after 6:30.
Police say they've located a motorcyclist who helped a 16-year-old after he was stabbed near a Halifax mall in April. Ahmad Mahar Al-Marak was found wounded in a parking lot at the Halifax shopping centre on the evening of April 22nd. He later died in hospital from his injuries. 4 people, 2 14-year-olds and 2 16-year-olds, have been charged with second-degree murder in relation to his death. Halifax police believe a motorcyclist witnessed some of the incident and provided aid to the victim. Earlier today, police asked for the public's help in identifying the witness. They later said the person has been found.
A man is in hospital after a shooting in Dartmouth early this morning. Halifax police were called to the 100 block of Albro Lake Road just before 1 a.m. Officers found a man who had been shot, and he was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Anyone with information or video from the area is asked to contact police.
New funding announced today by the provincial government aims to increase the study and use of renewable energy and reduce emissions in Nova Scotia's seafood sector. Money will be available for people looking to make changes to their operations and companies looking to do research. Michael Gorman reports.
It's not often that voices on a wharf drown out the sound of a boat firing up, but that's what happens when the boat is running on a battery. This example from Glass Ocean Electric shows what's possible when a vessel has the ability to switch between electric and diesel power.
Our system is an all-electric system in parallel with an all-diesel system connected by a belt. So it's a parallel hybrid that would probably be more appropriately considered a dual system. It's like I'm going to drive electric or I'm going to drive diesel.
Malloy says the company is focusing on vessels ranging from 38 to 45 feet, and the battery system has the capacity of about 8 hours. Glass Ocean Electric is just one of the companies that stands to gain from a new funding program announced today by the province. Nova Scotia will provide $6.5 million over 3 years to help proposals that focus on reducing emissions and introducing more renewable technology for the seafood sector.
Any efficiencies that are out there, I'm sure we'll see applications for them, and conventional applications, and hopefully some unique ones as well.
The executive director of the Nova Scotia Seafood Alliance says the new program is a big deal.
A small funding contribution from the province helps to shift a multi-million-dollar project from unviable to viable in simply the blink of an eye.
The Fisheries and Aquaculture Loan Board will have a dedicated program connected to the fund that will provide money at reduced rates.
But I think overall, people sometimes need a jump start to make things happen, and the province is putting something forward, I think, which can be very positive and I think will be built upon.
Government officials say the fund will be assessed and updated as necessary in hopes that it will be clear skies and smooth sailing. Michael Gorman, CBC News, Eastern Passage.
Well, it was smooth sailing today weather-wise for sure. Ryan Snoddon with us now to talk about that.
And it's turned into a nice evening.
Yeah, nice day, nice evening, and it feels like, we're really turning the page now, right? Have a look at the high temperatures across the province today. High teens, low 20s, even those coastal areas are into at least the mid-teens now, high teens in many cases, and it was, yes, a beautiful day. Now, we did see the clouds bubbling up and a few isolated showers along the spine of Nova Scotia, as we thought there would be today, but they are fairly isolated and they're not heavy rain producers. We do need the wet weather, but if you are heading out, just to make sure you are keeping an eye on those over the central parts of the province towards the northeast. We're watching this system for tomorrow. It's going to be mostly to our east, but it will clip in, bring some building clouds across the eastern half of the mainland and especially into Cape Breton. And that's why temperatures are going to be a bit cooler here as well. A bit of an onshore flow. Warmest temps will be central and west tomorrow. And there's still an isolated chance of a pop-up shower away from this system itself, which again, you can see Wednesday here will clip into eastern areas, mainly late day, more so towards the late afternoon and evening hours. And there are those isolated showers that'll pop up further to the west. So we all kind of have a risk of seeing a shower for tomorrow. That moves out. Thursday, we're going to rinse and repeat. Sun and cloud, isolated pop-up showers. And then for Friday, we are watching this system here, which is going to be moving in with its frontal boundary. Nice and pretty mild on Friday, really, back into the 20s. That frontal boundary moves through Friday night and into Saturday, but the weekend is not a washout. 7-day forecast is coming up.
There is hope.
Yep.
Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
The provincial government announced a $2.5 million investment in the Cogswell District project in Halifax today. The total investment in the work is $5 million, with HRM investing another $2.5. MLA Brendan Maguire made the announcement on behalf of Housing Minister John Lohr. The funding will help pay for the removal of a bridge and 2 retaining walls in the area, coupled with additional remediation work to address contaminated soil, to allow for the extension of services and street infrastructure.
This project is part of the larger Cogswell District development, which will help create more than 3,400 residential housing units. This investment addresses critical infrastructure needs and lays the groundwork for future residential expansion in the downtown core.
The provincial funding is part of the Municipal Capital Growth Program, a one-time $102 million investment in projects across the province, the largest provincial investment in municipal infrastructure in decades.
Dalhousie University has pulled all medical students and postgraduate trainees from any cardiac training at the St. John Regional Hospital or New Brunswick Heart Centre. The decision was made after some learners complained about alleged harassment and the learning environment. This comes after long-standing concerns about inappropriate behavior in the cardiac surgery division here in Nova Scotia. Dal undergraduates and residents in New Brunswick were advised of the situation nearly 7 months ago through an internal memo. A copy of the memo obtained by CBC shows allegations include, quote, intimidation, harassment, racism, and sexism. Dalhousie and Horizon Health Network in New Brunswick declined to comment on specifics, but say they take the allegations seriously. Last year, a new code of conduct was brought in to the cardiac surgery division in Nova Scotia's Central Zone. Unprofessional behavior by some surgeons was flagged in the review of the division in 2010 and 2016, and following further allegations, a third review that was ordered in 2022. One medical resident in St. John, who previously trained as a nurse, spent a few months at the New Brunswick Heart Centre.
I'd say that the environment can be difficult at times, maybe even harsh. I don't think that's going too far. But I think that the staff and the physicians are very much interested in making that a more welcoming environment and having the learners back as soon as possible.
Jones remains hopeful the situation will be resolved in time for his cardiac rotation. Dal has given students the option to do their rotation somewhere else or in a different specialty. The Nova Scotia government has a new program to help people living with diabetes pay for glucose monitors. The province says it was designed to help cover the cost for people who rely on multiple doses of insulin each day and will help thousands of Nova Scotians. But some critics say it doesn't go far enough. Dr. Michael Mindrum is an internal medicine specialist who focuses on diabetes care in Nova Scotia Health's Western Zone. So what do you think of the coverage this provincial program offers those living with diabetes?
Well, one, I'd just say that we're extremely excited for the program, especially to serve all the patients with type 1 diabetes. It's really a major cost when you're thinking $3,000 to $5,000 a year per patient. And it's a lot of cost to pay for something that really should be part of their care. And so it's such a powerful technology and extremely useful to help people with diabetes, type 1 diabetes, achieve better sugars. It improves their quality of life, kind of connects them with us as healthcare workers, and can connect them to their loved ones as well. And you get just incredible insight to their sugars and how their medication, their diet, lifestyle, and exercise all fits in. So this is going to be something really helpful for that group of patients.
Well, what difference would it make for someone living with diabetes who only requires one insulin injection a day or none at all?
You know, I think that what the province has done is it's really gone beyond a lot of the other provinces in terms of what it's covering. The question of whether it's gone far enough, I think that's a good one. Right now, we are following the Diabetes Canada guidelines in terms of who should get full remuneration for or full coverage for the continuous glucose monitor. With that said, there's more and more evidence of how powerful it can be for type 2 diabetes, whether they are on insulin or not. When you have insight to what your sugars are doing moment by moment, whether you have type 1 or type 2, it can really powerfully change your life. We can see that people's glucose comes into target more quickly. They get more insight to how that food's affecting their glucose. It helps decision making between a patient and their provider, helps really prevent lows. So many patients with type 2 diabetes are also on drugs that can cause lows, even if they're just taken by mouth. And sometimes those lows can be quite distressing. And so it would be excellent to be able to say there should maybe an exception status that patients that really deserve or could benefit from this could have coverage. Number of patients with type 2 diabetes are on once a day insulin, and it's helpful to know, do we need to move on to twice a day, or what meal would be best? And not everybody eats 3 meals a day, for instance. So these are some of the areas that hopefully will iron out with time.
Do you expect it would save the province money by the long term by reducing the risk of further complications? Is that something people should keep in mind?
It's possible. The evidence is kind of emerging in that group of patients. So in type 2 diabetes, not on insulin, we don't really have much cost-effective understanding of how it would help. So me as a physician, I'd love to have any of my patients that have diabetes type 1 or type 2 have access to this. And I know that patients that can afford it and really greatly benefit from it. From a provincial healthcare standpoint, It's a different decision process that I haven't been involved with.
All right. Well, we appreciate your thoughts on this very much. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Take care.
Many people gathered in Glace Bay today to commemorate the 99th anniversary of Davis Day, or Miners' Memorial Day.
While many were reflecting on Cape Breton's coal mining history, others wondered about the future of the Donkin mine that's been closed for nearly a year. Kyle Moore has the story.
Led by the men of the deeps at the grounds of the Cape Breton Miners Museum, today's ceremony is to honor Bill Davis. He was shot dead by company police in Waterford Lake during a miners' strike in 1925. The day recognizes the many lives lost in coal mines across the province.
I think back of what the miners did on that fateful day when they attacked those armed horsemen. I tell you, it was a turning point for Cape Breton. It was a turning point for union and labour just about across North America.
Among the wreath layers today is Jeff McClellan, representing Cameron Coal, owner of the Donkin coal mine. The idle mine has been shuttered for almost a year now after the access tunnel roof collapsed last July. There's no indication on when or if it will reopen.
The province says, oh no, that's the ball's in Cameron's court. And Cameron says, no, it's in the province court. We need that assurance that we're not going to be closed down for another year. So
the mine has clearance from the province to reopen. The Premier recently said that nobody from the company has contacted him or his office with a request for a guarantee on future stop work orders.
I sent 2 letters to the Premier in the last couple of weeks, one on May 17th and one just yesterday or the day before yesterday.
Edward says he's received no response on his request to have the two sides meet. Many miners at today's ceremony are in favor of the Donkin mine reopening.
I have no problem with it. Of course, I'm a miner, and I've mined almost since I was 17. I was in the mine, so I was never scared to go underground.
For now, the future of Donkin remains in limbo. One thing is for sure, Davis Day will mark its 100th anniversary next June. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Glace Bay.
Coming up, the United Nations approves a U.S. ceasefire plan, reviving hope for a possible truce between Israel and Hamas.
And Hunter Biden has been found guilty on all 3 counts at his federal gun trial.
It is a beautiful night out there. Ryan is up next with his weather forecast. We will see you in a few.
Yeah, Ryan, you said earlier maybe we're turning a corner. It feels like that, doesn't it?
It does.
When you go outside
21st, not too far away.
You just feel happier, right? It's just nice.
The baseline is moving up, right? In terms of what's normal, the nighttime lows pretty much have settled into the double digits. We haven't talked about frost in forever.
Haven't heard that word in a long time.
Yeah, so it's it just feels like we're heading in the right direction, which is great.
Keep going.
Beautiful day today. Have a look at this live shot from moments ago. Beautiful. Halls Harbor.
Nice.
This is such a great spot, isn't it? I mean, there's so many across the province, but this one is a terrific one. And you can see there, of course, the magic of the tides there in Halls Harbor. The boats can be down right on the ground, but yeah, definitely the tide up a little higher right now, and temperatures in Halls Harbor around 23 degrees with that sun and cloud in the mix. Now, temperature-wise, as we look across the province, we're, pretty comfy. Low 20s in many cases, high teens at the very least. And as we look at the winds, they have not been really a factor today. Just very light, sustained in the 10-20 range along the Atlantic coastline. That's going to be, again, the name of the game for tomorrow. Some gusts upwards of 30 at last check, Sydney and Halifax. You can see some of this high-level cloud cover just offshore. You can see where the clouds have been bubbling up today through the interior with a few of those isolated showers, and those will continue to kind of sail northeastward over the next few hours. This low is kind of fizzling out. We've got this next low pressure system here, which is got a cold front that's slicing down slowly but surely, is going to be working its way to the east, and that frontal boundary will be working its way through our neck of the woods Friday night and into Saturday, and it does look like it will linger into Saturday. No, temperatures pretty comfy right now across the Canadian prairies. 19 in Vancouver, a little cooler there. Back into the 40s in the U.S. South, and a little more tolerable for our friends in Florida into the high 20s today. So those shower chances, again, that have bubbled up will continue to kind of sail to the northeast, and they'll be running a isolated risk for inland areas towards the Lunenburg County area, as well as eastern parts of the mainland. Halifax done with any shower risk. And we'll be watching, again, that activity to kind of fizzle out by the time we get to midnight. Increasing clouds overnight tonight, low-level cloud and some fog patches setting up yet again. A comfy start into the double digits and even some low teens. And then for tomorrow, again, that system approaching. And so I do think we'll mix out after that kind of a cloudy, foggy start. We'll mix out to a mix of sun and cloud. Western parts of the mainland, edging into central. Eastern parts of the mainland and into Cape Breton, I think, will remain fairly cloudy tomorrow. Shower chances on the increase throughout the afternoon. This forecast model a little more bullish on the western trend of this. Some forecast models keeping this almost completely offshore, so shower chances nonetheless. And further to the west, we are going to be seeing some isolated shower chances bubbling up in that daytime heat where the skies are brighter as well. So yes, shower chances for Cape Breton, temperatures ranging from around 16 to 20 degrees. Cooler right in those onshore winds in places like Canso. We'll look at 22-degree temperatures for places like Antigonish. And then, the warmest temps will be found through central to western parts of the province tomorrow. That's where we'll see the more widespread 22, 23, 24-degree temperatures. And again, those isolated showers possible to fire up into the afternoon. And I should mention, with those showers developing, there is a risk of a thunderstorm tomorrow, also developing here central and western areas of the province. Thursday, another isolated risk. Temperatures a little bit warmer, widespread 22 to 26 degrees, cooler in the onshore winds. And you can see there's the activity that fades away by the time we get to Thursday morning. There's the Thursday afternoon possibilities that will develop in the daytime heating. And then here comes that next frontal boundary. And that, again, will move in just in time for Friday night. Winds will increase on Friday as well from the southwest, a little on the breezy side, a nice comfy day. Now, the timing of that front is going to be key, of course, all eyes on it, including mine, for the weekend. It looks like we'll see clearing now throughout the afternoon, and maybe a dry Saturday afternoon in the west, Saturday evening in the east, but devil's in the details. A few hours is going to make a big difference. We'll keep you posted on that. Sunday still looks good, and we are looking at a nice Monday, Tuesday. So fingers and toes crossed that Saturday system speeds up a little bit, but we'll keep you posted on that.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourism Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismgaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
Up next, I'll talk with Tracy Vaillancourt, an expert in violence prevention, about the rising number of incidents in Nova Scotia schools. That's our Newsmaker.
Please stay with us. You're watching CBC Nova Scotia News.
Nova Scotia's Auditor General says violence is rising in schools here, but she says the actual number is much higher because school staff are not reporting every incident. Kim Adair says the full extent of the problem is not known due to, in her words, significant data collection weaknesses. Tracy Vaillancourt is the Canadian Research Chair in School-Based Mental Health and Violence Prevention. She's at the University of Ottawa. Ms. Vaillancourt, in this province, the AG says violence is on the rise, but the full extent of the problem isn't really known. Does that come as a surprise at all to you?
Doesn't. In fact, I would say that this is true across Canada. In most school boards, we don't really have a good understanding or a true appreciation of how pervasive the issue is.
Why don't we?
We tend to not report it, and if we do report it, we tend to suppress it. I think that there needs to be a lot more transparency. I think, part of the issue is that school boards are under a lot of pressure from the public people want more accountability, and in some ways they're going the wrong direction. So they're suppressing information instead of making it available, and if it's available, then we can address it in earnest.
All right, let's break some of that down. The AG here is saying that we need to better define what constitutes a violent act. Is that a debate in schools?
Well, I guess the fact that they said it means that people don't know what a violent act is. It should be obvious, I would think. But perhaps that's part of the work that needs to be done. It would be really important for all teachers in all of your schools in your province to know what their Ministry of Education means when they say violence, and that then moving forward, we could do something about it. So the first thing is to have a common definition. That's really important, and to make it really available to the public and to all stakeholders.
Teachers here are also being urged to report all the violence. We mentioned that. Is the lack of reporting an issue, and why is it such an issue?
So that might be because of the lack of understanding of what the definition is, or an appreciation of what violence is. Again, I think that should be obvious, but maybe it's not. And then we need to have this reported for sure. I think that it should be actually written in the Education Act, that there has to be a reporting mechanism, and that reporting mechanism not only stays within house, so within the school, it would be then communicated to the larger board, back to the Ministry of Education, and again back to key stakeholders like students and teachers and parents and the like.
So you're not talking about a teacher just mentioning it to their principal and kind of getting it on the record that way. This is a much more formal approach.
Yes, I would say there needs to be a formal mechanism of reporting, and that seems to not be the case in your province. In Ontario, we have such a thing when it comes to bullying, and that's really important. It allows us to keep track of how things are progressing, and then to put interventions in place where they're needed.
You said the tracking should be made public. Why is that so important?
For accountability. And that ultimately, if we hide things, we can't address them. You can't, if you can't acknowledge it, you can't fix it. So we need to have a clear account of what's happening. And with that clear account, we can put in prevention and intervention programs that are appropriate.
Is there a will to tackle violence in schools, in your opinion, at all right now?
I think there's a will to suppress it. And I don't think that's true just of Nova Scotia. I see this across our country. I think that there's a lot of fear about perhaps litigation, scrutiny that's not warranted, because there's a violence issue everywhere in Canada when it comes to youth. I think we need to be doing better for sure.
And so what's the end result when you suppress it?
The end result is you can't address it. Like, how do you fix something if you don't even know the true extent of the issue? So, we need this out in the light. That's how you fix it.
Is there anywhere where teachers or school boards in this the school board in this province could, take a page or take a lesson from another place in the country that does seem to be leading the way here and improving this situation?
I'm going to say Ontario. They should be looking at what Ontario is doing with respect to bullying. We've done a lot of work in the past 15 years to make sure that we're addressing this. We have a common definition that all school boards use. All teachers are aware of it because they're trained on it. There's a reporting mechanism that's formalized within the Education Act. There's more transparency because of it. I think Ontario would be a good place to look.
Great to get some of your expertise on this. Thank you so much.
No problems. Good luck with this issue.
Coming up, agricultural antifreeze. Researchers say spray could help wine grapes handle cold weather.
Welcome back. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is continuing his diplomatic push in the Middle East to bring an end to the Israel-Hamas war. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council has approved a U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal.
Hamas says it's seeking some amendments to the deal. The White House says it's evaluating the response from Hamas submitted to mediators in Qatar and Egypt. Julia Wong reports.
There was hope and expectation over the ceasefire proposal, which had been backed by the UN Security Council. The deal involved the release of hostages and exchange of Palestinian prisoners, a permanent end to hostilities, and a major reconstruction plan for Gaza. An Israeli government official says the plan would allow Israel to destroy Hamas, free hostages, and eliminate threats to Israel in the future. Today, at a Gaza humanitarian aid conference in Jordan, the UN Secretary General made an urgent plea for all parties to support the ceasefire plan so the war can come to an end.
The horror must stop. It's high time for a ceasefire, along with the unconditional release of hostages. I welcome the peace initiative recently outlined by President Biden and urge all parties to seize this opportunity and come to an agreement.
Also today, concern from the UN Human Rights Office over possible war crimes. On Saturday, Israeli forces rescued 4 hostages who had been held in Gaza since the October 7th attacks. Gaza's health ministry said that operation killed more than 270 people and it injured close to 700 people. The UN is pointing to how the Israeli raid happened in a very crowded area. And it also says Hamas holding hostages in busy places puts the lives of both civilians and hostages at risk. It says the actions by both parties could be war crimes.
The conduct calls into question whether it be precaution, proportionality, and distinction. The scale of destruction, the scale of the people, the number killed and injured, seriously calls that into question, whether those principles have been applied.
Israeli tallies state roughly 120 hostages are still being held by Hamas. The UN says all should be released immediately. Julia Wong, CBC News, London.
Hunter Biden has been found guilty on all 3 felony charges at his federal gun trial in Wilmington, Delaware.
This case was about the illegal choices defendant made while in the throes of addiction, his choice to lie on a government form when he bought a gun, and the choice to then possess that gun.
Jurors found the U.S. president's son lied about his drug use on a form when purchasing a firearm 4 years ago. They made their decision after deliberating for more than 3 hours over 2 days. Hunter Biden had pleaded not guilty to the charges. He faces a possible prison term of up to 25 years. Each count also carries a maximum fine of $250,000. Joe Biden issued a statement saying he accepts the outcome and continues to respect the judicial process as his son considers an appeal.
The Green Party's Elizabeth May says she is vastly relieved after reading the unedited version of a report on foreign interference. A heavily edited version released last week said some parliamentarians have actively helped foreign governments meddle in Canadian politics. The CBC's Evan Dyer looks at the reaction of May and other federal leaders.
I would describe myself before reading the report as good and freaked out.
That, says Green leader Elizabeth May, is why she chose to read it.
I found myself looking around at colleagues, wondering who could it be? Who would sell out this country?
Any MP with a security clearance can read the original report without redactions.
Having read the full, unredacted National Security Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians report, for myself, I can say, I have no worries about anyone in the House of Commons. There is no list of MPs who have shown disloyalty to Canada.
Not one sitting MP is accused of knowing collusion, she says.
Saying, as I do, that I'm relieved does not mean that there is nothing to see here, folks.
She says the report mentions one unnamed former MP who did knowingly give privileged information to a foreign operative.
That person, former MP, whose name is not included in the report, should be fully investigated and prosecuted. There are other examples of people currently in elected positions in Canada who are not members of Parliament.
That could include people at the subnational level, such as provincial or municipal governments, May said. She also said that foreign actors identified as seeking to influence officials include corporations as well as governments.
I want to make certain that there is none of my MPs which has any kind of implication with the foreign and hostile power.
Today, Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet said he also wants to read the report and is getting the clearance to do so.
I feel this is my duty.
And today the PM went after the leader of the opposition for not doing the same.
Elizabeth May took on her responsibilities as party leader, got her security clearance, and did the work. Mr. Poilievre should do that too. He is choosing ignorance so he can play partisan politics.
But Trudeau's number two asked twice if the Liberals would expel any caucus member who knowingly worked for a foreign power, refused to answer. Elizabeth May was careful not to break laws in her account of what she read, and she gave just enough information to dispel some of the cloud of suspicion that hangs over the federal parliament, while raising new questions about former members and about other levels of government. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
Workers at Canada's borders are no longer planning to go on strike. Their union has reached a tentative agreement with the federal government. 9,000 border employees were planning to strike beginning Friday. The Public Service Alliance of Canada says negotiators worked around the clock to reach an agreement. The union's president says the tentative deal is a well-deserved victory. Details are still under wraps, but the Treasury Board says the deal includes wage enhancements and other benefits.
10 years ago, a U.S. brainwave scientist conducted an experiment primarily on Indigenous children from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. The researchers said their technology could make the students smarter, happier, and cure them of their traumas. But a critic describes the experiment as, quote, bonkers, and she's baffled that a Canadian university approved it. The CBC's Jeff Leo has the exclusive investigation.
I begged her to go because I was so excited.
Back in 2014, 12-year-old China Galerno heard about an opportunity at school for her and her mom. They could go on an all-expenses-paid trip to Victoria, BC for a week-long experiment called Brain School. On the first morning, technicians from Biocybernaut Institute began placing electrodes on their heads and told them they would be spending hours inside darkened chambers listening to their own brainwaves. All of this came as a shock to Alma.
We did not know about that until just when it started happening to us.
The Biocybernaut brochure said that this treatment, neurofeedback, could make you happier, increase your IQ, and help you overcome the effects of trauma. James Hart, the American psychologist who runs the program, has a simple pitch.
Change your brainwaves, change your identity, change your reality.
Hart says scientific studies show that neurofeedback can make a difference, but critics say any difference detected is likely due to the placebo effect. Amanda Lavallee is a social work professor from the University of Victoria. She was asked to be part of the research team, but after attending the week-long brain school for herself, she said no.
Because I thought it was whacked, for a simple term. It was bonkers.
The study was reviewed and approved by the Research Ethics Board at the University of Regina. Because of that approval, the Prince Albert School Division agreed to support the study and allowed the brochures to be handed out.
Clearly, a serious mistake was made.
That's Ian Mosby, a medical historian and expert on unethical experimentation on Indigenous people. He reviewed the ethics application for the project, which CBC obtained through a Freedom of Information request. He was shocked to see that the application didn't spell out what would be done to the children.
That is totally unacceptable. There's no description anywhere in the REB application that actually talks about what that is. But it's actually the heart of the experiment.
In an email, the University of Regina says its ethics review board only reviewed a small portion of this study. It did not examine what Biocybernaut planned to do with the children. The university says it's sorry for any harm that may have been caused, and it notes it has since tightened up its ethics review process. As for Alma, China's mom, she says she hopes the focus on this story will lead to accountability. Jeff Leo, CBC News, Regina.
Surgical training is getting an upgrade in 2 Ontario hospitals. Carleton University students have teamed up with researchers there to develop an AI simulator to teach laparoscopic surgery. Experts see the potential benefits of artificial intelligence, but warn that incorporating it into healthcare can be tricky. Gabrielle Huston reports.
Huda Sheikh is one of the students who worked on this small box, fitted with a camera, motion sensors, handheld laparoscopic tools, and a tablet. It's a new tool to train doctors in surgery. The AI classifies the trainees' gestures based on the work of other doctors. And the simulator can give feedback in real time.
While they're training, they get little prompts on the right or the left if they're moving their tools too fast. So if I'm literally moving too fast, it will tell me to slow down.
Or detailed feedback in charts and videos after the training.
I think having an artificial intelligence enhanced simulator is paving the way towards better patient care.
Her team worked closely with their partner, Dr. Ahmed Nasser. He's chief of pediatric surgery at CHIO. And he says this AI simulator will supplement the training students already get and free up surgeons for patient care.
We started having this idea at the time of COVID, actually, which is something good came out from something bad, right?
Nasser thinks the simulator will be ready for testing in about a year. Surgeon Sunit Das is an affiliate with the University of Toronto's Ethics of AI lab. He says AI can be an advantage, so long as doctors don't lose the patient's trust.
We're really guardians of a public trust, and issues of ethics in artificial intelligence really touch upon this question of how do we maintain that trust?
Healthcare technology and ethics researchers say that to keep a project like this ethical, there should be extensive trials, reviews by AI experts, and programming to avoid the black box problem for more transparency. Nasser says they've kept these sorts of concerns in mind while they've been developing the simulator.
I think it's 100% ethical, as long as we are supervising the trainee.
Instead of being there for every practice, the supervisor would check in on the trainee's progress periodically.
You cannot take human out of the equation. The way I look at AI is to help physicians in their daily work and will stream the process and make us more efficient.
When it comes to monitoring the kind of education and the quality of education that these students receive, that'll ultimately be up to the accreditation institutions like the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons. But Dr. Das said that he thinks the human element of his work won't ever be lost. Gabrielle Houston, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canadian researchers may have found a solution to help protect wine grapes from cold temperatures. It involves spraying a plant-based compound onto their leaves and stems. Ethan Williams looks at what the early results could mean for farmers.
It looks like something out of a science fiction movie, but what's happening in this lab at the University of Saskatchewan is real, and it could change the face of agriculture. Researchers at Abazyne Biotech are creating products from a plant hormone called abscisic acid. The goal? Spray it on wine grape crops to make them withstand cold temperatures. Abscisic acid, or ABA, naturally occurs in plants. It can close a plant's stomata, the tiny pore-like structures on its leaves and stem, but natural ABA doesn't always last a long time in the plant. Abazyne says its spray can outlast natural ABA, not only making grape crops hardy to frigid temperatures, but stopping them from budding too early during midwinter warm spells. Abazyne's chief scientist says results from crops in Ontario have been promising so far.
Those grapevines, when sprayed with a solution of our analog, were able to be 5-6 degrees more tolerant to freezing temperatures.
Jim Wilworth is testing the product on his grapes at Brock University. He says it's timely research given how climate change is impacting the growing season.
We can have very warm temperatures in February and March, and that can lead to premature cold hardiness loss.
The research is beneficial for commercial wine grape growers like Matthias Oppenlander. He's lost many hectares of crop at his vineyard in southern Ontario over the years from cold damage.
if you lose your vineyard, it can cost up to $50,000 to $60,000 an acre to plant a vineyard. So not only that, it takes 3 to 4 years to bring that plant into production again.
Right now, it is a bit expensive.
Back at Abazine, the next step is taking the product from the lab and selling it commercially, with research showing it could also be used on other fruit crops. Ethan Williams, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Canada's main stock index was down almost 200 points in a broad-based decline, led by financials, utilities, and base metals, while U.S. stocks were mixed. Here's a look at how the markets did today as we head to break. All right, too early to talk about the weekend, but we did mention it earlier.
You talked about it yesterday. What are we talking about?
True, Monday, yeah.
But too early to nail it down.
Right, we can always talk about it.
But looking not like a washout.
Yeah.
That's encouraging.
Sunday looks, I'm going to jinx it now. You're setting me up for failure here, Tom, but Sunday looks great. and there's no model that is showing that system delaying into Sunday. It's really just the timing of Saturday and how quickly that frontal boundary moves out. Today was a little slower than what it was yesterday, so we're trending kind of in the wrong direction.
We've got a lot of time still to go, don't we?
It's only Tuesday. One thing we've been also mentioning this time of year is the fog monster, right?
Of course,
it retreats back to the coast, but it lurks there. And some folks are lucky enough to get a shot of it while it's lurking. And so we look at Bacquerel Point. Now, this picture is actually pointed to the south and west toward Cape Sable Island, and you can see
there it is, looming.
Waiting to make a call.
Cue the Jaws music. Paul, thank you so much for sharing this. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. So many great pictures. We could do an entire few minutes a night with just pictures. But yes, thank you so much to everybody for sharing. So low to edging into the mid-20s tomorrow. 20 to 24 looks like a pretty good range. Again, the building clouds, eastern mainland, so eastern Halifax County, Antigonish, Guysborough, edging into Pictou County and Cape Breton. The clouds likely will be a little more dominant for you folks tomorrow, and those shower chances greater, especially into the later parts of the day. Looking at Thursday, isolated shower chances again. Let's run you through the timeline. So it is, again, quiet tonight. There's that system. Primarily going to impact Newfoundland, but we will see it clip Cape Breton and the eastern mainland late tomorrow, edging into eastern parts of the mainland, as we said, and there are those showers that'll pop up for the interior parts of central and west, and risk of a thunderstorm there as well.
All right, good to know. Thanks so much, Ryan. Well, fans of Paddington Bear are being invited to a new immersive adventure in London. Visitors will be able to step into the world of Britain's beloved fictional character. Take a look at this.
The tour begins in Paddington Station, of course, where the train whisks you off to Windsor Gardens, and iconic film characters are there to greet you. They are their themed rooms, prop pieces from the movies, and of course, marmalade sandwiches.
The iconic character was created by late author Michael Bond in 1958, delighting generations of children with exploits around London ever since.
All right, well, that's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.